Welcome back, Gadgeteers. So today we're going to talk about a new feature in Windows 11 called Recall. Now, you may not see this feature immediately, and we'll talk about why that is. So what we're going to go over is what Recall is, what hardware you need to be able to see and use Recall, and last, whether or not it's a data risk for you to have Recall running. Okay, so first off, what Recall does is it takes captures of your desktop, not the desktop you're working on, but your video desktop on your monitor. And it does this routinely. Probably as something changes on your screen, it'll take another capture of your desktop. So what you can do in the future is you can do a search, and instead of looking for just text documents on your computer, it will also do a search of those images that it has captured. How does it do this? Well, and you know it's coming. It uses advanced AI, artificial intelligence. In order for this to work, though, you have to have a new chip on your computer. So your regular chip, maybe you have a computer that's 2 years old and it still works fine. It probably doesn't have a neural processing unit. If you don't have that on your computer, unfortunately, it will not work. I want to also point out this is only for Windows 11 and probably whatever Windows is coming out in the future, Windows 12 or whatever. You know how it is, Microsoft, you know. Maybe they'll make Windows 3000. They had Windows 2000. Why not Windows 3000? So if you can imagine, you've got a notepad on your computer running and you're in a video conference and you're making notes on the notepad about, okay, I'm going to do this, you're going to do that, we need to look into this. The conference ends and you forget to save that notepad document, so it's all gone. Luckily, with Windows Recall, you can just pull that back up, right? Do a search for it, and apparently the AI is so sophisticated that it actually can look in these images that it's captured and be able to read the text. In your search, bring up a photo, an image of your desktop at that time. So I can see some practical business use for it, and, you know, probably also personal use. The good thing about personal use is that if it's your computer and you're the only one who uses it, I don't consider it a big deal to have that feature running. If you're one of those people who simply don't want your history to be seen, and you are afraid of what that could entail, well, you could turn it off. Unfortunately, at least for now, not very long. So you hit the Copilot button, which is the Windows button on my keyboard because it was made prior to Windows Copilot. And you do a search, type in a text search, conference notes. And it just so happens that was the first line you put in your notepad document, conference notes. It finds the picture, pulls it up. Cool. That's really nice. Who needs it? Well, let me rephrase that. Who can get it right now? First, you're going to need a Copilot Plus PC. And what is that? If we have a look here on the frequently asked questions about Copilot PCs, it'll tell you that's essentially a Windows 11 PC that has an NPU, Neural Processing Unit. And the Neural Processing Unit allows the system to do things like analyze a picture and see if the text you're missing and need to have is in that picture. So it's fairly sophisticated. In addition to the Copilot PC, you're going to need 16 gigabytes of RAM, and many of the older computers, when I say old, I mean like 2019, 2020, were selling with 8 gigabytes, and the whole idea was to save the end user some money. And if they're just doing basic things on the computer anyway, like email and surfing the web, maybe a couple of documents here and there, they really didn't need more than 8 gigabytes. Now there's a need for a PC. I'm not talking about Macs, just PCs. You need 8 logical processors. It's kind of the same thing as the memory. How will I know if I have 8 logical processors? There's a number of ways to look and see if you do. Logical processors are usually twice the physical processors in a computer. So if you have 4 cores in your computer, you have 8 logical processors. So you're going to be okay. Most computers that are shipping since, I'd say, like 2021 have at least 8 logical processors. Hopefully, you're going to have to check into that. 256 gigabytes of storage capacity. To enable recall, you'll need to have at least 50 gigabytes of storage space free. So pictures take up a lot of space, right? So it's going to be saving these screenshots. It'll pause once the device has less than 25 gigabytes of storage space. That's a good thing. Using recall is not awfully difficult. It runs in the background, and when you need to, you do a search on your computer, and if there's an image associated with your search, it will pull it up. Okay, so maybe you don't want snapshot to run. You can pause recall, but apparently only until the day after. I would like to be able to turn it off, and I think there's going to be a way to turn it off. It's just a matter of when it becomes available. Or a third party will create an application that will let you disable recall. That's my hope. What if you don't want recall to save information on certain websites and certain pages? By default, Microsoft Edge. It doesn't say other browsers, so just Microsoft Edge will block website and filters private browsing activity. Chromium-based browsers, it will block private browsing activity. You can exclude websites that you don't want recall to be taking images of, which is a good thing, but personally, I don't think that's good enough. I think you should be able to turn the feature off altogether. You can exclude an application from getting pictures snapped. So maybe you don't want people to look at Microsoft Excel, because when I say people, anybody who happens to get on your computer, because you have sensitive Excel data for your business or for a corporation on that computer. Well, we don't want it taking snapshots of that information. So we can have Excel be blocked. This gives you an idea of what kind of data you're going to need, what kind of space for the amount of data you're going to generate. 256 gigabytes storage capacity on your system. The allocation for recall will be 25 gigabytes default or 10 gigabytes, and it goes on as the storage level of your drive goes up. So once you get up to 1 terabyte, by default, it is going to have 150 gigabytes of storage set aside for images that are captured from recall. That's a lot. That is really a lot. You can get a lot of images in 150 gigabytes. I'm not so sure I would like that. You can change the storage limit if you want to, so you may not agree with it being that much. So if you need to, you can delete snapshots, and you can change the maximum storage for snapshots over here where it says 50 gigabytes, and you could decrease that if you want. You also have the ability here, it says it might be tiny and you can't read it. Delete snapshots from a specific time frame. Past hour, past 24 hours, past 7 days, past 30 days. So I don't know what happens if you go over 30 days. If there's a couple of days there, you can't delete. You also have an option to delete all snapshots. If you don't want the snapshots, I would prefer to just have the thing be disabled than to have to worry about, going in and doing maintenance and deleting snapshots and the extra processing time that it will take to create the snapshots. Microsoft assures you they are committed to responsible AI and your privacy. I question that. I'm not going to say that they don't, but whenever I see this now with a company, go look at our transparency note and use cases. How how transparent is a company really? The thing about companies, corporations like Microsoft, their sole purpose is to increase shareholder wealth. That's what they're supposed to be doing. Everything else is incidental. Of course, they can't disenfranchise their users by doing something really bad, like capturing this information and then you find out it's being stored up in a cloud somewhere and you delete the images and lo and behold, they're still available. Just like happened with Apple, with Mac OS, and I think phones as well. So basically, what happened is if you had deleted images back in 2021, for whatever reason, they've reappeared. So delete, as I've always thought, doesn't really mean delete. It means you can't see it anymore. So whenever you click delete and you say, oh, there we go, I've deleted the image, all is good. It's really not. It could just be that you can't see it anymore. So I am concerned, to be honest. You can shop Copilot PCs. You've got to have that NPU in order to use this feature. So if you don't want it and your computer doesn't have a neural processing unit, you might be okay, because you're not going to be able to run it anyway. So we talked about what an NPU is. It's usually integrated into the processor, so it's not a separate chip. And there are some Windows 11 devices that have it already. It's already built in. The Surface Pro 10, Surface Laptop 6, Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Extreme Gen 5, very popular computer. Some Dell systems, Dell Latitude, and a couple of Dell Precisions. And this is an important note. Moving forward, you will find the chip on most devices, such as those from Acer, Asus, Dynabook, Fujitsu, and so on. So it's going to start to be integrated. It is already integrated in some AMD processors and some Intel processors. As new processors come out, those all will have the NPU built in. You can check and see if your PC has an NPU on it. I doubt mine does. The processor's 4 years old now. I have a AMD 3950. And I don't run Windows 11 on this computer, so I really can't run this, but I will put this URL in the video notes down below. So there are several ways to do this. One is to use Task Manager Performance. Another is you can also check for, wow, that's a really bad spelling, Narul Processors in Device Manager, or you can check the Intel processor specification page of your processor, assuming you have Intel, to see if it has AI chip support. So we've talked about what Recall does. We've talked about what kind of data it's storing and how much. A lot. Should you be concerned? If I was running Windows 11, especially as part of a corporation, yes, I would be concerned. So you're working for a corporation and they're using Windows 11 and they have an NPU and they want to track what employees are doing on computers. And if there's an incident, they can go back on that domain and do a search of your computer for that time. Were you working, for example? What were you working on? That does scare me a little bit. And if you're working for a corporation and they get a more modern computer, it's something you should think about. So when you boot up your work computer, make sure you're working. No more fun stuff. What about personal use? Not really an issue that I see. I see more of a benefit than an issue because it's your computer. If nobody else is using it, I wouldn't worry about it. If other people are using it, maybe you don't want that. It does kind of erode privacy a little bit. So we've got those issues. Then we've got the issue of privacy upstream. Does Microsoft not save these images somewhere where it's not supposed to? Somewhere on their cloud systems? They say no, but as we've seen with Apple's recent faux pas, Even though they say they're being transparent, they may do it anyway. I'm not sure why they'd want it. It's quite a bit of storage to have for multiple computers, millions, uh, on their particular cloud. So I would like to think they're not, but no one can be sure. They say they're not going to. That doesn't mean they won't. The third problem we have with privacy is possibly what they call bad actors these days, hackers, black hat hackers, somebody that can hack into your computer. Well, allegedly, and I think they probably are, the images are encrypted, so somebody can't just grab a copy of the picture and take it somewhere and open it up. That won't work. But if they get access to your system, consider, the credentials specifically, so your login credentials, and the system is on, and they can run an application behind the scenes that you don't even know is running with a new exploit, it is possible to unlock the encryption using the encryption keys that you get as that user, and then copy off these images and allegedly do something with them. Again, there's a ton of storage there, and you have to ask yourself as a hacker, okay, so on one user's computer, I've got 50 gigabytes of images. What do I do with them? You're going to scan all those, as in with your eyes, look through each one of those pictures? Or are you going to use AI to do it for you? I suppose you could. You could create a folder and say, hey, Copilot, I want you to go through these images and look for my bank code or whatever. But most of those will not be saved by default. I'm not too concerned about the bad actors coming and stealing your data. It just doesn't seem useful. It seems like if they're going to hack into your computer, there's other data they can get that might be much more useful. If you're on your bank's website and you've excluded that website while you are, checking your bank, transferring money, whatever, I don't see how it would be helpful. When you type in your password on most bank websites, you see stars or little black dots. So whoever it is can't get your password. Furthermore, if you're using two-factor authentication, so you've got it on your phone, right? So you log in on your bank website, you type in the password that they can't see, and on the phone it requests a two-factor authentication, which you do on your phone. I'm not really that concerned about it. The bottom line is, do you want it or not? Unfortunately, you will get it whether you want it or not. I would watch in the future. I suspect even Microsoft will put up a change to the app that lets you turn off recall. If not, some third party is going to do it, because there are many people who cover their cameras up with tape, right? A sticker, whatever, so that they're not able, they think anyway, that nobody's able to look through the camera. They could activate the microphone and still hear you, right? Oh, now I've done it. Now we're going to get a whole new level of panic. Whatever. It's been that way for decades, so sorry. I personally wouldn't be one to worry. I don't care for a feature like that. And to me, it is concerning. It's up to you. You have to decide what works for you. Since I'm on Linux, and I'm not trying to say, look at me, I'm on Linux. I don't have to run that software because I'm on Linux. Nah, Linux isn't a savior for this issue. If you think about it, there's millions of computers on Windows, and 99% of the people are not going to understand how to deal with, not care how to deal with it, and basically are just going to consider it another thing that Microsoft's throwing in your face that they're going to do. There will be some talk about it, and I am curious as to how many people are going to have reaction to it and what they think. I would really like to hear your comments and see if you think this is going to be a big deal for Microsoft Windows users, or if it's just going to kind of slip under the radar like advertisements in the start menu. basically have. Yes, we hear YouTubers talking about it, but have you heard anyone outside of YouTube complain about it or mention it? Anybody? I haven't. And they know probably that you are in IT, and that usually if they're concerned about something, they'll come up and say, hey, what is this about advertisements in Microsoft Windows now? What do I do about that? What is this new recall feature? What do I do about that? If you haven't heard anything, I don't think they're too worried. But send me your comments. I'm curious what you think, especially if you're a Windows user. Maybe you do dual boots. Send me your comments as well. Maybe you're just Linux. How do you see this affecting the Windows computer industry? Good? Bad? Is it an awesome feature or not so awesome? I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next Fast Gadgets.